Yeah.
100% of what our walkers fundraise and what they contribute to their own goals will stay in the community.
Hi, everyone. It is Shaelene McInnis here with Books in Line, the accounting service, and also with the Ontario Wellness Magazine. As you know, we are promoting wellness. I think that it's been so necessary and needed, especially since COVID. So I'm trying to bring together great people who are doing great things to promote wellness, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, financial. There are so many things that affect it. So today, I have a wonderful guest that is truly making a difference in this world. Her name is Lisa Gibbs, and she works with a foundation, and I'm going to ask her to speak to that. And she does it on behalf of Royal LePage. So she is someone I'm very excited to introduce to my audience. So, Lisa, would you like to let us know a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Shaelene. My name is Lisa Gibbs, and my title is Executive Director, Royal LePage Shelter Foundation. But in that title, I don't think it really adequately expresses the passion that so many of us at Royal LePage have for the issue of intimate partner violence. In Canada, intimate partner violence is literally at epidemic proportions. 45 municipalities across the country and growing have declared intimate partner violence an epidemic in their communities.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we know it's big. We know it's a serious issue.
Yeah.
And so for some timing context, I always like to try and understand that. So for your listeners, I'm going to try and give a little bit of context around timing. So this being 2023, interesting, 50 years ago, 1973, the first shelter in Canada that protected women from their violent intimate partners was built in Canada. That's Interval House in Toronto. And here's what, just get ready for this one. They called the issue 50 years ago, runaway wives. Yeah, 50
that
years
is so
ago.
Horrendous.
Isn't that just 50 years ago, runaway wives. So we've got an issue that, that context 50 years ago. 25 years ago, exactly, the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation was created.
25, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was created by a group of agents, a group of Royal LePage agents with big, beautiful hearts who realized that home needs to be safe. Where could they put their charitable funding that could contribute to safer homes? They created the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation. And in that time, over $43 million has been raised, primarily by Royal LePage agents, though it's open to everyone.
Yes.
The Royal LePage Shelter Foundation is a CRA registered charitable organization with the ability to issue charitable tax receipts. We are independent. We have an independent board of Royal LePage Canada. However, again, we are the beloved organization attached and benefit from Royal LePage agents across Canada.
I like that very much. We had talked briefly before about that. So why don't you tell me what it is with we'll start with the agents. I'm going to want to ask Lisa, of course, how us regular people who are not agents, how can we help support? And I'm sure she's going to give us that information. And of course, as I always say, we'll include all of the information to reach out to Lisa. We're going to include that with the podcast, as well as if there's any reason that you can't get a hold of Lisa, you can contact us at Books in Line. and we will make sure that we put you in touch with Lisa, because the work they're doing is so absolutely amazing. So let's talk about what it is that the actual agents do to contribute to this foundation.
Yeah. So what they do is they contribute in two ways. One is through events, and oh my goodness, Shaelene, there are so many great events. That's where you and I met at a wonderful event in downtown Toronto in
Yeah.
June. And that's just a sample of some of the events that go on across Canada. And they are organized by Royal LePage agents, they're broker owners, so many beloved individuals, including we've got an incredible Ecuador trek coming up in November of this year, where 120 agents have applied, many more applied.
Oh,
120 were chosen to pay their own way to Ecuador, to
wow.
pay for the trek literally, and raise $6,000.
Wow.
And
It's incredible.
100% of that, those funds go to two places. 80% goes to their local shelter and 20% for national violence prevention programs. So events are super big at Royal LePage. That's one way.
Yeah.
The second way, and this is one of my favorites, is called the Commission Donor Program. And that means that once a Royal LePage agent signs up to that program, a portion of their commission, their paycheck, will go to the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation for every home sold.
Wow.
So that's a beautiful program. And we know it's really good for our communities. We know it's really good for business. And I can touch upon that when we get to that place. So those are the two primary ways that Royal LePage Shelter Foundation earns dollars, who then share back with shelters 100%. So there's over 250 shelters across Canada that the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation contributes to. And again, it's from the events, it's from the Commission Donor Program, and the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation and our small but mighty team generate those dollars and send it out across Canada. And really, each agent selects what shelter they want their dollars to go to.
That's
so it's
amazing.
So it's not here. It's not, we don't choose it. It's our agents who choose it. And you know what? Everything local is so important. That's where it matters most. And that's the beauty of the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation. Even though it's a national charity, we listen to our donors. We 100% give it back.
That's fantastic. I love the idea that if you're an agent, you can choose the charity that it goes to, the shelter that it goes to. I want to talk about the upcoming event because I have been invited to participate, which I will be participating. And then I've already been told which shelter that our part, the money that we've donated from Books Online and from the Ontario Wellness Network, where that will go. So Lisa, why don't you tell us about that event that's coming up?
Yeah, exactly. We are so excited. This is the inaugural year of Nightlight Walk. Now it's nightlightwalk.ca to sign up, get some more information. And we've selected 5 communities literally across Canada: Victoria, Burlington, Durham Region, Belleville, and Halifax are the 5 locations. And we're doing kind of an experiential event. It's a walk, it's a 3K walk, but what's really interesting is that it's at night. We know that the issue of intimate partner violence is dark. What this group will be doing in its inaugural year in the communities I've just shared is that we'll be bringing light to the issue of intimate partner violence. And in fact, we will be wearing lights. So we're walking in the community. We're a movement in support of intimate partner violence. Each community, we have chosen our groups who will be benefiting from it. In Durham Region, Pickering, to be specific, is where the event will be held. And we will be walking for Horizon House and
Yes.
Juliet's Place.
Yeah. And
So
could you give
those
me
are
the
the two.
date and time? Sorry about that,
Yeah,
Lisa. Just confirm the
yeah,
date and time.
sure. It's October the 19th. It's a
Yep.
Thursday night. We'll be
Perfect.
gathering at Millennium Park at 6:30, and we'll be listening to some brief chats, pick up our lights because
Mhm.
and our swag. We will be setting out at about 7 o'clock, and
Mhm.
we do a 3K walk through some beautiful real estate that will have lights around it and some
Oh.
lovely wooded area too. So we get kind of both that residential eye candy and some lovely nature that we all don't have enough of, in my opinion. So 3K walk, and we're raising funds.
Yeah.
100% of what our walkers fundraise and what they contribute to their own goals will stay in the community and will
Yeah.
be split between Juliet's Place and Horizon House, because that's kind of the magic of Royal LePage.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, it's that 100% of what's raised stays local.
It's funny that you say this. Years ago, I was looking at, what charitable uh, businesses were out there and what charities were out there and how much was actually going to the people that needed it. And I was absolutely shocked by a couple of very, very well-known charities, which I will not say the name of here, but it's worth looking up, by the way, everyone, where almost every cent went to administrative costs or the payroll for the staff, and almost nothing went to, in one case, it was 6% that was raised, and this is a very, very well-known charity. Only 6% actually went to the people that needed it. So when you say 100%, there's almost nothing that close. Maybe food banks would come close to that, maybe United Way, but that would be it. Like saying 100% is, I don't even know if I've ever heard of a charity saying 100%. So that's
Yeah. Well,
incredible.
we're really fortunate, Shaelene, that we have Royal LePage Canada
Hmm.
paying for the administration costs
Yeah.
associated with our foundation. And, it's charitable organizations are like a business, and they definitely have,
Yeah. They have
costs
costs. Yeah.
associated with doing their good work. And like I said, we're really so fortunate to have Royal LePage Canada paying for all of those costs, enabling that 100% model to take place.
Yeah.
And you're right, a lot of
Mhm.
people see that as unique, and
Yeah.
and again, we're ever so fortunate, which makes the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation an excellent example of
Oh,
of a potential recipient. You don't have to
right.
be a Royal LePage agent
No,
to support the Shelter Foundation. We accept donations at rlp.ca/donate. You can
thank
make them
you.
via credit card. You can make them via electronic fund transfer. We accept stock donations even. So there's lots of
Really?
different ways to
Hmm.
give. And again, charitable tax receipts for that donation are offered, of course, with
And
our
now, yeah.
thanks.
And as a person who does taxes for her clients, my staff and I do lots of taxes and bookkeeping. This is a great tax write-off. This is what I always say. I'm like, oh, you could
Absolutely.
write that off. So yeah, no, claim the charitable donations, of course. But also knowing that this is one group that actually does 100% to the people that need it, and that Royal LePage itself is paying all of the overhead for the staffing, for maybe setting up events, I'm sure, also for office space, like overhead. I know, because of
Yeah.
course we have offices. This is costly. These fixed
Yeah.
costs are a lot. So the fact that Royal LePage Canada is covering that is incredible. So this is a
Right.
more than worthwhile
Right.
charity.
Yeah.
So am I right in saying that Royal LePage is the only realtor company that has a charity?
Yeah. Exactly. Royal LePage Canada. Royal LePage is the only national real estate company with its own charity. 25 years old. So we just didn't start this. We've been building
Yeah.
this and building this. We're deeply committed, and our agents are so passionate for the cause.
Hmm.
They really feel uh, a sense of ownership of their shelter organization, of their shelter foundation, and they think of incredible ways. We've got a Royal LePage Riders Club. These are a group of agents who have bonded over
Love it.
the love of motorcycles, and they
It's
go
amazing.
on journeys every year. And guess who the beneficiary is? Of course, their Shelter Foundation. And I just want to go back to the Shelter Foundation component where, if you were to reach out to any shelter in Canada and you ask them about the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation,
Yes.
I've done it, so I know, you get that, oh my gosh, oh,
yeah.
I get checks from the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation. They're not designated. We had a roof leak last month. Funds went there.
Yes.
I've got a staff person that I need to help children who've experienced violence in their homes, to help counsel them. And I couldn't afford it with government funding. But the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation has enabled that to happen. So much so that over the past 25 years, Royal LePage Shelter Foundation has become the largest non-governmental funder of shelters across Canada.
That's incredible.
What a wonderful place to be.
Yeah,
we're filling in that gap. So government funding has been set for really the last 7 years. Right. And so costs have gone up and up and up. So who fills that gap?
Yes, the costs have gone up. And you know something, Lisa, I know that you and I have seen this, me in the accounting world, and you, of course, in your world with working with shelters, the increase in intimate partner violence with COVID. I saw a massive increase of people who wanted to become our client, or people who are already our clients and coming to us and saying, okay, this is what's going on in my house. I found COVID when you're stuck in a house with someone who is abusive, whether it's financial, mental, physical, any way someone is abusing you and you're walking on eggshells. And I've tried to explain this to people. It had just skyrocketed with COVID. It's just like when you're talking about a light, that's exactly what it's like, shining a light. COVID just was shining a light on how bad it can get. And it just,
well, you know what? Our shelter partners were telling us that the incidence of domestic violence, the calls that they were receiving had grown 40 to 60% over the period of COVID.
Absolutely.
And one thing I want you to know too, which I think was a real light bulb moment, is that shelters don't just house women and children leaving. In fact, many women, the majority of people they work with, don't ever come to the shelter. They have friends and family that they can stay with. But when it comes to who is going to help navigate all of the different aspects of leaving and getting back to a new normal, and meeting the needs of the psychosocial needs of what it was like to live in that world, not only for the woman but her children. Our shelter partners are really the head office of domestic violence in Canada. They see it, they know it, they feel it, they live it, and we at Royal LePage, we feel it's an honor to be able to support them and what they see and what they do, and to tell them they're not in it alone. That Royal LePage is right behind them. And I think too, when we've got that nightlight event coming up, one of the main messages that I've been able to share with our shelter partners is that, the issue it's not all on your shoulders. If it feels better to know that we're passionate for this cause, and we've been working for the past 25 years, we'll be working for the next 25 years on this issue, and they're doing fantastic work. And if there's anything we can do to make their lives easier as they go forward, that's what we want to do. That's definitely what we want to do.
Yeah, with us at Books in Line, we've helped in situations where tax returns need to be completed. They haven't been completed in years. the woman has thought they weren't, and turns out their partner was keeping the child tax benefit, for example. We've had numerous for years in some cases. So we help a lot with that financial side of it, the income tax, and understanding the child tax benefit and understanding taxes. It's not as difficult.
Right.
People become very overwhelmed by it, and they think that they can't do it. It's not true. It's not that difficult. And
Oh,
once we teach people this, and I do workshops, of course, too, advising this is the things you need to look for if you're considering or in the process of leaving your spouse. This is the information you want. We actually are part of the many accounting companies that have gone to the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, and they're finally saying, okay, because when when a woman has left her spouse and they go to do her taxes, we've been having to mail them in for years because we don't have the ex-partner's income for that year.
right,
So we're trying to guess,
right.
trying to mail it, and so
Yeah.
finally the CRA has come out with contact information. Anyone can contact Books Online for this, saying if this is your situation where you're in an abusive situation, here's how you can give us the information that you need. Here's how we make sure that nothing gets back to your partner or previous partner. So they finally started to do this, because it's just been very difficult for the person who leaves the relationship to do things like their taxes. Like if they're
Shaelene,
so
you just have such a unique skill set that is
yeah,
so necessary for
desperate.
women. And back to that 25 or 50 years ago where, the term was runaway wives. Well, what we now know about intimate partner violence is not just physical.
No.
It's the latest expansion of the term is something called coercive control, where
Yes.
you give an example just that falls within that. So there's not been any physical
Right.
violence, so to speak, but
Yeah.
that control of finances and emotions and
Yeah.
and so much more.
Yeah.
It has major impact on
Mhm.
a woman's life, and a woman's life to be able to escape and
Yes.
raise her children in the way that she knows she wants to raise without that hangover
Yes.
of years of just one example of taxes not being filed.
And that's a
So,
systemic issue. For me, I consider that a systemic issue. We have got to do this, like change this part. So finally that's being done. But yeah, it's this is like housing. There's something else that
yeah,
I know. Shelters work with many women and children, helping them access housing. That's again another systemic issue. So yeah,
right.
it
And
goes
I mean,
on and
that's a
on.
really good point too when you talk about housing. And, one of the new movements within the shelter world is kind of a 2.0 version. So if I'm a victim of domestic violence and I go to a shelter, it's an emergency shelter. I might be
Yes.
able to stay for 30 days.
Yeah.
Well, where
Yes.
would I go after that? Market.
Especially with your children, where are you going to go with your kids, right? It's
Exactly. So
just, yeah.
now a lot of community shelters have a 2.0 version of themselves, and it's called second stage housing. So our shelter partners have financed, again, oftentimes in partnership with the federal government
Hmm.
and donors and the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation, they
Hmm.
have built second stage housing. So
Yes.
women can stay for up to a year while they
Yes.
work to put their lives back together. They work to
Yes.
repair their
Yeah.
family, their
To
children
heal.
themselves, to
Yes.
to to gain employment that is, befitting of their skill set.
Yes.
And it just gives them a leg up, and then they can start to work on market rate rentals or real estate
Yes.
purchases if they're in a
Hmm.
community that allows them to do that. So again, you've got, the shelter system has gone from emergency only to the
Yes.
second stage housing, which is incredible. And the
Yeah.
work that shelter partners have done in their community
Hmm.
silently, quietly,
Hmm.
um, is so important. And going back to what Canadians know, the Canadian Women's Foundation a couple of years ago did some research to discover that 2/3 of Canadians know someone who has
Oh,
been
yes.
the victim of intimate partner violence, coercive
Absolutely.
control.
Yes.
So, we all do. And I invite everyone who's listening today to think about that first time when they
Yes.
realized this was happening in their lives. I know I was a kid when I remembered a childhood friend, their perfect lives shattered in an instant when their son came to our house yelling for us to call the police that their father was being violent against their mom. And you know
Yeah.
I think we all have those types
Yes.
of memories. And
Memories. Yeah.
it's an issue that is not going away. And
No, it's not. No. It's unfortunate that it's not. I'm really happy shelters are doing things like what you're talking about, helping with housing, because as you know, I know many, many women who they've gone to a shelter, but after that, they have no money. They're afraid that they and their kids are going to end up on the streets. I hear this all the time. What am I supposed to do, Shaelene? If I leave, I'll end up on the streets. And a lot, I like the shelters doing, there's a lot more education behind it now,
right,
teaching people their finances, teaching a budget. For example, I know of shelters that work with, a lot of shelter employees are our clients. We have a number of clients who are shelter employees, but they've expanded it so much more than just being an emergency shelter. So I agree, it's a much bigger reach. I can't think of a single person that I know, not one single person that I know, that hasn't known about someone or themselves or their mother or a family member or sister being in this kind of situation. I don't know of a single person that hasn't
right.
had something, even from childhood, for example. So I'm just going to wrap this up. Lisa, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you were able to shine a light on exactly what the Shelter Foundation does with the 100%. I hope that everyone watching and listening to this reaches out to Lisa or to Books in Line or Ontario Wellness Network, and especially when it comes to this night walk, the night light walk on Thursday the 19th. I'd like to do as much as we can for everyone to sponsor and to contribute, because again, it's all going to one place. And I really like
Absolutely.
the fact that you guys give them to the shelters, and the shelter gets to decide what happens with that money wherever they find
Absolutely.
the needs. So thank you again. Anyone who wants to contact Lisa, will include all of the information. You can always get it through Books in Line as well, because we can connect you as well. And Lisa, thank you so much. This was a great podcast. I really appreciate your
Thank
information
you
sharing
so
today.
much for the opportunity to share the story of the Royal LePage Shelter Foundation.
Thank you.